Hello and welcome to another episode of the CompileSwift podcast. I'm your host, Peter Whittam. In this podcast, we talk about everything related to Apple platforms and Apple development, including macOS, iOS, iPadOS, watchOS, tvOS, and any other OS they've invented this week. So with that, let's get on with the show. What's up, everybody? In this episode, I am going to talk about a subject that is known to strike fear into the heart of many an Apple developer. Yep, that's right. We are talking signing certificates. No! I'm going to talk about my frustration with them, and I'm also going to offer up what I think might be a sensible solution for Apple to consider. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty details of this subject. So for those of you that don't know, I'll start by explaining what they are and how it works. When you sign up on the Apple Developer Program, there's a few things you have to do. Some of them happen automatically, others not so much. And even sometimes the automatic ones can just create a nightmare for you. So what happens is you sign up for the program. You have a few things you have to register, right? So your machine, more than likely, if you're using Xcode, will automatically be registered as a development machine. And by that, I mean the Mac, right? You're not going to get into Hackintosh on this. Now, that enables you to start creating applications on your Mac. But if you want to run them on a device, then the next thing you need to do is you need to have a device profile created. And that is going to be for a specific device or devices. So you create those profiles. A lot of the time it's pretty straightforward. You go into the Apple Developer Portal, you put in the UDID, as they call it, which is kind of a unique descriptor for your device, and that registers in a profile. And that profile then says, hey, any apps that, is built with this profile in it and certificate, go ahead and let it install if that device is listed in these profiles. Pretty straightforward, right? And then that enables you to basically, go into Xcode, select, for example, Peter's iPhone, and then run it, and it's going to run on my iPhone instead of the simulator, okay? So you may or may not have seen that happen, but that's how you get it on device. That's part of the paid program. It's kind of part of the benefit, if you like. Now, next up is you've done your application and you're ready to distribute it. Well, now you have to create a distribution certificate for your application. And it's worth pointing out that, these profiles and these distribution certificates, they expire, right? They're normally, off the top of my head, I believe it's 12 months from the moment you create them, and register them in the system. 12 months later, it's going to expire. You have to go through and renew them every year to carry on. It kind of makes sense, right? Because, if you think about it, you renew your Apple Developer subscription every year as well. And it's a way of just keeping things fresh and security and everything else. That's fine, no problem. Well, I mean, it can be a little complicated and problematic sometimes, but it's pretty straightforward if you're just one person doing this, right? Now, I've greatly simplified the process, but that's basically the process. The problem really starts when you're involving more than one person. Now, registering multiple Macs, multiple Apple IDs from different developers' accounts, that's pretty straightforward. And again, Xcode takes care of a lot of that for you. And a lot of the time, people will check the box in Xcode. You'll have seen it that says, automatically handles signing and certificates for this application. But that can be problematic because in the past it's kind of worked, then it's worked fine, and then it hasn't worked at all, and those kind of things. So a lot of times you'll see people say, nope, you know what, do it manually. And when you do it manually, you get drop downs in Xcode to select these various profiles and certificates that you want to use to essentially sign, as it's called, your application. And that can get troublesome quickly, especially for multiple users, because you will find that, it'll come up and it'll say, hey, certificate X doesn't include profile Y and all of these kind of things. And it's a real pain to have to do this every year and reset them and rebuild them. And, compile that with the fact that maybe throughout, 2 or 3 months, you may be adding multiple devices and multiple people until you've ramped up your team. So when it becomes more than one person using these certificates and profiles, things get very complicated quickly. And it is an unholy nightmare to try and unravel this mess every year. And that's the thing is, you kind of know when they're going to run out, and you start to dread that everything's going to break and I won't be able to distribute new applications, may not even be able to run and build them on a device until I've figured out all of this mess. And that's what I've been doing the last week. And it drives me crazy because every year when I think I've finally nailed the process for doing all of these various things, inevitably the next year comes around and it's like starting from scratch again. Drives me crazy, and it takes a lot of time. So, make sure that you stay on top of these things, and you'll hear lots of developers just complain like crazy to Apple and in groups about this process because it is crazy. I feel it's very outdated at this point too. I think at one time when there was just independent developers and those kind of things, real sort of solo or a couple of people on the team, it made sense. But now with the app stores for any of the Apple platforms being so popular and so big, there can be so many people on development teams that it's just, you almost need to hire someone to manage it on your behalf every year when it comes around. And, funny enough, I was thinking to myself, there's probably someone out there, if they really wanted to take this nightmare on, you could probably make a fair amount of money every year by just being a contractor that says, hey, I'll come into a company and set up and fix all your certificates for you. I think, there's a lot of people that would pay to have that done. So I got an idea that it came to me this weekend about how maybe there's a better way to do this. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to lay out what I think might be a better system for Apple to fix this problem.
Time for a break.
When I was looking to get started creating my own podcast, I looked at lots of different services, and I found the one that worked best for me was Anchor.fm. And the reason being is they do everything for you. All you need to do is go to the app stores and download the mobile app, or you can go to their website at anchor.fm, that's ANCHOR.fm, and you can get it set up there. Basically, you just answer a few questions, and within minutes you've got your own podcast stream set up, ready to go. They also handle lots of monetization options for you and take care of all of those details to get sponsorship for your podcast, and basically give you everything you need in one tool, either on the website or the mobile device to get started. So I would recommend going to anchor.fm today to get started creating your own podcast and sharing with the world.
Break time over.
So what's my magical solution? Well, it's probably not perfect, and if I think about it even longer, I'll probably find flaws in it. But here's my idea, right? So you sign up for the Apple Developer Program. At some point, you are going to have to create these profiles and these certificates. So there should just be like a very simple, kind of Apple approach to this, which is there should be a, create certificate or, set up application button in the Apple portal that asks you a series of questions, right? Something along the lines of, what's the name of the app ID, and all the things that you normally set up for that. And then, get into this new creation process where it says, how many developers on the team? And then you say 3, and it's going to say, okay, list the developers' Apple IDs, and you put those in, right, in the relevant boxes. And then it's going to say, are there any, what devices do you want to use? And you can just list all of the different devices. And then you go through, and of course, you're going to answer a couple of other questions like, does it use push notifications? So any of those that also require separate certificates, just check the boxes. There is a list of those now, but this would all be within this kind of onboarding creation process for the certificate. So you go through and you answer these questions, and at the end of it, you just say, generate certificates and profiles, and it goes away and figures out all the right things to do for you in the right order so you don't have to. Now, I really believe that Apple can do this, right? They're super smart at taking the complicated things and simplifying them. And yet, when it comes to their own tools and developer tools, for some reason, they never apply that logic. They just don't simplify things when I truly believe they can, right? Just because we're developers doesn't mean it should be hard. If anything, the goal here should be keep it simple because we want to get on with making fantastic apps. You want us to make fantastic apps. We don't want to spend hours and days creating profiles and signing certificates and all of that junk, right? So just give us something like I've suggested there, this simple, question answer process that will then go away in the background on the portal and generate all of these profiles and certificates for us. Then all we have to do, we go back into Xcode like we normally would, right? If anyone's ever set up or added their account in Xcode, there's the manage profiles or download profiles, button that you can do and just say, look, here's, you click on your account and you say, go get all of my profiles and certificates. And that's it. You're done. None of this having to jump through hoops and figure it all out every time for everybody. It just would work. So that's my idea. I'd love to hear what you will think about this because I have never met an Apple developer yet that has not complained and, expressed some real pain about having to deal with this every year. So let me know what you think. You can reach out to me on Twitter at CompileSwift. You can go to CompileSwift.com. There's a form there. If you have some views or opinions or some tips that you'd love to share on this, maybe we can figure something out. Either you could send me the audio and I'll put it in the podcast. Of course, you'll get credit for it. Or if you want to appear on the podcast, we can work something out there too. This is something we really, it's 2021. This needs to be made simple. It's got better over the years, but it's still ridiculously complicated. With that, I think I've got all of my certificates in line for the year. So take care, everybody. I will speak to you in the next episode.